Hello, my name is Jess Torres, RTFH Program Analyst. This is a recorded training that will include steps on creating an invoice for awarded funding that's been managed through Zoom Grants. Zoom Grants is a database used to collect applications, manage grants, and funding distributed through RTFH. We will cover requests for reimbursement submissions, which is also referred to as invoices. Invoice submissions are a part of the agreement between RTFH and the subrecipient. These are due monthly by the 15th. All invoices are expected to have the supporting documentation labeled, highlighted, general ledger highlighted and labeled, a summary of the expenses, and a claim reimbursement form if available. Please include a summary and make everything eligible and allowable that will be reimbursed by RTFH. Please also note that this training includes examples only, and depending on the funding source or program type, questions may change. Once you have successfully completed the application submitted by your organization and RTFH has approved the application, you will be able to submit invoices for each program. This training is targeted for subrecipients who are accountable to submit invoices for reimbursements. If your application hasn't been approved yet, you won't have the functions to submit invoices. You will be able to use the request for reimbursement checklist as a tool. The first step is to log into Zoom Grants. Before creating the invoice, make sure the expenses are not over the budget. You can check this by clicking on the budget tab or the request for reimbursement tab and scroll to the bottom. If you have any questions about allowable expenses, refer to your agreement and the 24 CFR. Please reach out to jessica.torres@rtfhsd.org or lahala.maddox@rtfhsd.org. Next, walk through the steps in submitting the invoices. However, there are a few key things to remember. Before requesting for reimbursement, please make sure all supporting documentation is collected, organized, and uploaded. Also, make sure there's enough in the remaining balance to request for the specific expense. You'll click on the Request for Reimbursement tab and scroll to the bottom to see the remaining balances. Now we're on the zoomgrants.com URL. This will be your opening screen. Make sure you click on your login and you'll enter your password. You'll successfully log in. Once you see the screen, you'll see all the applications that have been approved. You will want to add invoice for the specific program. We will start with the joint program. Click Add Invoice. The next screen will pop up to generate your invoice. Once you have clicked on Add Invoice, you will then see Project Contact, Invoice Contact, and Invoice Number. The Project Contact is the point of contact that RTFH will relay any message that needs to go back to the organization. The Invoice Contact should be the person that is financially accountable for the invoice submission. The invoice number that we will enter will have a naming convention. In this case, it will be RTFH, the agency, the Turtles as the program name, and then joint as the program type. training purposes, we have selected Amy Cox as the invoice contact. So we will enter this information in the empty boxes. Once you have that completed, you'll see line item details, expenses. You will only be able to enter the amounts that have been approved. When you see no approved amount, it's because that budget is not allotted through the agreement. Remember that for the description, they'll have something populated already. You will need to enter the exact description for the actual expense only. So for this example, we will expend 25 cents to case management personnel. Have the name of the actual line item, personnel, so that we know to look at the timesheets and personnel sheets and the amount that has been expended. You'll then go to the requested amount and enter the amount that you have requested. The next one here is supportive services, food. You will enter food, the store, if it's Amazon, or if it's Costco, make sure you enter the actual store name, and then the total amount that you're requesting. In case we're doing 25 cents to make it easy. You'll then see the following rental assistance for TH and RRH. Make sure you put the actual dollar amount, the name of the personnel or person, excuse me, person that's actually requesting for this dollar amount. So for this case, we will do TH rental assistance and put J, Josh. So J would be the first initial, Josh is the last name. The month, we'll do 12/21. Total amount. Make sure if you're submitting rental assistance, you will need to add the lease to the actual uploads. We'll need to do the same thing for RH rental assistance. We'll put J. Elmo. J as the first name, initial, and then Elmo is the last name. Date. The amount. TH leasing structure, you'll want to enter the actual structure's name. Month. Now for the joints program, we will have joint operating in subcategories: maintenance and repair, property taxes and insurance, building security, utilities, and furniture. The only ones that will show up are the approved allotted amount per your agreement. In this case, we'll use joint operating, maintenance, and repair. We'll do 25 cents there. And if it's part of personnel, or if it's a car, just please name the actual expense, the date, the year, total amount. Goes with property taxes. If it's to a specific insurance company or to a specific property tax, please title it the name of the actual space. So for insurance, we'll just use Geico for an example. Month and the year, total amount. Utilities, follow the same pattern. You will use utilities as DGE. The month and the year, and the total amount. If you have admin expenses that will fall under admin indirect or direct, this is the selection that you would click on. Admin to CEO. And here, scroll down and select what period does this request for reimbursement cover. Since we're covering December for this specific example, you'll want to do December 1st, December 31st, 2021. To follow the next prompts, have you uploaded financial reports documenting individual line item expenses? Examples are payroll summary report, detailed profit loss, detailed general ledger, timesheets, and etc. If you have uploaded everything or have everything to upload, click yes. This prompt is, have you verified that reimbursement request is consistent with data in HMIS? Example participants and service encounters are reflected at status time. You will be able to find this by running the APR in the HMIS parity database. If that has been completed, select yes. If it's not, you can select no. You will need to select or identify how much match has been expended during this invoice period alone. For $2, you'll have to do 25% of the actual expenses. For this example, we will use 50 cents, match this period. Since this is the first invoice, it will be the same number. How much has it been expended to date? However, the following invoices should be a cumulative amount for year to date. Skip this one, select NA. You uploaded the HQS inspection forms. If yes, just select yes. If it's not required for this project, select not required, or no new rentals stipend expenses during this period. Since this is the first actual invoice, you will need to upload the HQS inspection forms. Claiming indirect costs, did you submit the indirect worksheet? Indirect worksheet can be downloaded by scrolling down to documents requested, clicking on download template, selected under indirect cost worksheet. Once that has populated, you'll download it and it should be an Excel sheet that looks like this. For this worksheet, you should keep one in your desktop or somewhere safe that you could refer back to and make sure it's updated in each invoice. For subrecipients with a federally approved indirect cost rate, they must use that rate and follow the cost base described in their nonprofit rate agreement. Subrecipients without a federally negotiated indirect cost rate may elect to claim the 10% de minimis rate and must use modified total direct costs as the base for this. You have this open, you will click on this cell and enter your agency name, program name, and then project type will be joint. Indirect rate, I chose 11.7% as approved. Again, this is part of your agreement, so you will find this in your agreement. Just Torres is the person preparing this. If you enter the actual rate, it will auto-populate into the other cells. Go into the one you're entering for total direct. If I'm going to do $1, it will auto-populate towards the end. If you have any questions with this form or Excel sheet, how to enter it, please reach out to jessica.torres@rtfhsd.org, and we will follow up with you with any questions you have. You have corrected, uploaded, and entered all the information for the indirect cost rate worksheet. You will then click yes because you have it available to upload into this invoice. You'll provide a brief summary of activities during this period, just from December 1st till December 31st, 2021. You will then enter an A for the last prompt. You'll start uploading your documents. We will need documentation for the match. So for example, if you have mentioned that the match was 50 cents, we'll need to have documentation provided showing where it was matched. So for this case, we'll use personnel and we'll need the personnel timesheets. Depending on your program type, you will follow the actual prompts. For example, personnel, you'll label it as the first initial and the last name, underscore month, year, and the amount. For multiple employees, please upload separately. For the leases, you'll label it as the name of the property, type of property, client's first initial, last name, the month and the year, and the amount. You will notice that the required checkboxes are selected for some. However, we didn't select all of them because then it won't allow you to submit the actual invoice without something uploaded. However, that does not excuse it or dismiss the fact that we need supporting documentations for your actual expense. This includes different types of program types. So we wanted to make sure we left it open enough to allow you to upload the actual documents. Once everything has been submitted and uploaded, everything has been checked, the remaining balances are correct and they're not overspent, then you will go down to the bottom. We'll sign your name, just entering your first and last name, And this certifies that the invoice, deliverables, and/or services were delivered and/or performed specifically for this agreement in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth. I will use Jessica Torres. Submit invoice. Once you have submit the invoice, it will give you a date of actual submission. You could review it, and if you see any errors, follow up with Jessica.Torres at rtfhsd.org, and I will follow up with you to make sure everything's corrected. To find your actual invoices, you'll have to click on the application name. For this one, we were looking for RTFH Ninja Turtles, which is a joint program. You will then click on Request for Reimbursement, and it will show the status that's pending, which means that it's currently in RTFH queue upon review, and then we will follow up with the financials team, and they will pay out the actual check. If you needed to create another invoice, you could select Create a new invoice and then follow the steps that we just did. Earlier, I mentioned to make sure you're not overspent before submitting an invoice. To find this information, you will click on Request for Reimbursement, then you'll scroll to the bottom, and it'll show you the remaining balances. Invoice requested currently pending, and once it's approved, it will go into the approved column. After the approved, it goes to the financials team, and once it's paid, it will show up on the invoice paid column. The closing topics or tips that we will include is make sure all invoices are completed by the 15th of each month. Make sure all supporting documentation is included for the expenses that you are requesting. Include a summary cover sheet where it shows which amount is how it's getting totaled. Documentation should be uploaded into the invoice under the program through Zoom grants. Allowable costs are the only approved expenses that we will submit for payment. If you're unsure whether a particular expenditure is allowable, consult your approved project budget, or you can reach out to one of us at RTFH, Jessica.Torres at rtfhsd.org, and we will follow up with your question. Make sure the appropriate forms of documentation is included. Make sure your general ledger is highlighted and has a summary, including the title or expense that is allotted to. If there's any listing of canceled checks or charges, they should also be listed either sequentially by check number or in some logical order if grouped by cost category. Date check was written, charge incurred, and the pay total amount of expenses should all be included for listing of canceled checks and charges. Documentation. You will always need supporting documentation to prove the expense was invoiced and paid out. The contract, receipt, personnel activity reports, etc. Any explanation should be provided for the purposes for which the costs were incurred if it's not self-evident by the payee. For in-kind contributions, examples, donated service goods, services, or facilities for which a dollar value can be established should only be used for matching purposes, and if they're allowed in the approved budget. The use of such contributions must be verified in a format Requests for reimbursements are the invoices that are supposed to be submitted monthly. This is a requirement per the agreement between RTFH and your subrecipient. If you are having difficulty submitting them on time, please reach out to us either to jessica.torres@rtfhsc.org to notify the submission is needing an extension. RTFH does understand that the 15th may land on a holiday, weekend, or other cases may arise. RTFH will provide a cheat sheet for the naming conventions to make sure the labels are correct on the uploaded documents. Other than that, we thank you for your time and we can't wait to work with you and continue working with you. Have a great day.